Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the NatureCity Podcast. I'm your host, Pradelli, and I'm also the CEO and co-founder of the company, having started NatureCity over 20 years ago with my wife, Beth, and since then, it's been our pleasure to have served over 500,000 Americans by offering them the best supplements we can make. Today, I'm going to cover a question that's come up a few times since my podcast on the novel GlucoVantage Berberine ingredient. In that podcast, which was episode 25, I shared how research found that just 100 milligrams of GlucoVantage increased blood levels of berberine by about 5 times more on average compared to taking 500 milligrams of regular berberine. A few folks mentioned that another ingredient, which uses a delivery technology called Phytosomes, increased berberine availability by between 9 and 10 times. So isn't that better? Well, as I'll explain, the way the 9 to 10 times is calculated is not a fair comparison. And in my view, the data does indicate that GlucoVantage is indeed far superior at raising berberine levels in the blood. Now, when it comes to supplements, you have to be careful about accepting the headline claims. The details behind that claim really matter, especially in the area we're talking about today. It reminds me, about 5 years ago, a friend who's also in the supplement industry started jokingly using the term the curcumin wars. At the time, there were about 10 companies vying to show that their curcumin was the best absorbed and most bioavailable option. And it seemed every week a supplier was coming to our office saying, ours is 10 times better, ours is 20 times better, no, ours is 30 times better. Frankly, it was just exhausting. I feel now we may be in the early stage of the berberine wars, especially because it's becoming such an ingredient of interest among many consumers. And one of the things I learned from the curcumin wars is that many times these statistics aren't based on fair comparisons, and sometimes they were comparing things that frankly weren't even relevant. So let's jump in and discuss what the data about GlucoVantage and the berberine Phytosome tell us. As mentioned, a study showed that taking 100 milligrams of GlucoVantage increased blood levels of berberine by about 5 times more on average than a 500 milligram serving of regular berberine. A subsequent study published in the journal Nutrients repeated this work and actually came up with a little better result for 100 milligrams of GlucoVantage. The improvement in bioavailability was about 6.8 times more on average compared to the 500 milligrams of regular berberine. Despite that, we still use the 5 times average as a working number. One thing I've learned over the years looking at these nutrient bioavailability studies is the sample size are typically relatively small, which I guess is good enough for researchers to be able to get statistical significance, but results tend to vary more, which is why we like to be conservative and use the lower 5 times statistic for GlucoVantage, which is still a great result. Now, turning to the berberine Phytosome results, and let me say, I'm not bashing this ingredient. I think it's a good ingredient. It's made by a very reputable company that I respect. We just think GlucoVantage is better for a few reasons I'll summarize momentarily. So in looking at the bioavailability data on the berberine Phytosome, the intro headline says it improved berberine availability by about 10 times. Okay, well, let's now look at the details of the data. The formulation used was a 550 milligram complex with 188 milligrams of berberine, with the rest being the Phytosome complex, which helps improve the bioavailability. So now we have the first complication in the comparison to GlucoVantage. Here they're using almost 2 times the amount of berberine than the 100 milligrams used in the GlucoVantage result I stated. So I thought maybe that's the big difference between the 5 times result for GlucoVantage and the 10 times result for the berberine Phytosome. Perhaps they have nearly the same absorption and bioavailability. It's just that the Phytosome study used nearly twice as much berberine. To confirm this, I looked at the actual data, and here's where things became even more curious. The calculation for the area under the curve statistic, which is the key parameter used in these bioavailability studies, the most common one people use as the barometer. Well, that area under the curve statistic was only 4 times more than regular berberine, not the 10 times the lead-in headline suggested. That's a big difference. So I was sitting here saying, well, what am I missing? So I went back and read the intro again, and as always, the devil is in the details. The 10 times improvement was calculated using observed dose linearity. So remember, they were comparing 188 milligrams of berberine in the Phytosome to 552 milligrams of regular berberine, which came from a 500 milligram extract, right? The extract was about 90% berberine. So to get the dose linearity calculation, it appears, and the math works out, so I'm assuming this is how it was done, it appears they extrapolated and adjusted the data to simulate both groups taking the same 452 milligrams of berberine. So in other words, since 450 milligrams is about 2.4 times the 188 milligrams, they actually adjusted the results accordingly to make the results to get that dose linearity result. So I tried this, and the math does work out to about a 9.8 times improvement, which is close to the about 10 indicated by the headline. So it seems this was how the calculation was done. Maybe I'm off somewhere, but I can't be too far off since the number is almost identical to what they stated. So if you're thinking, hey, that's kind of misleading, I don't blame those describing the study. They did define it. I initially glossed over it, and as I was anxious to get to the data. But yes, it is easy to miss, especially for just a casual observer. Now, my real issue with this is several product marketers are selling the berberine Phytosome using this 10 times statistic. And it's being used improperly because that's not the product that's being sold and marketed, right? You'd have to take about 2.5 times the servings being marketed each day to get to those 9 to 10 times results. And that would be pretty expensive, among other things. I will say there is one company I found that is reporting correctly, reporting the actual 4 times result shown from taking the 188 milligrams of berberine in the Phytosome complex. All right, so back to GlucoVantage versus the berberine Phytosome. The actual results showed taking 100 milligrams of GlucoVantage resulted in a 5 times improvement compared to the 4 times when taking 188 milligrams of berberine with the Phytosome. But that's not even a fair comparison because of the dosage difference. A better comparison is the data from taking 200 milligrams of GlucoVantage in a single serving versus 188 milligrams of berberine in the Phytosome. The 200 milligrams of GlucoVantage was found to be about 15 times better than taking 500 milligrams of the regular berberine, which is far better than the 4 times found in the berberine Phytosome. That's quite a difference, and part of the reason why we think GlucoVantage is the superior option. As a side note, we do recommend taking 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams of GlucoVantage daily, but we suggest taking it in separate 100 milligram dosages, spread it out across the day. In summary, here are the 3 reasons we like GlucoVantage over other berberine options. 1, it offers far superior bioavailability, meaning much more berberine is available in your blood that your body can put to work despite taking a much lower dose. And with the smaller dose, there's much less chance of you experiencing stomach upset that some users of berberine experience with much larger amounts. Now, 2, as a result of this, it's much more economical to take as a supplement than other options, including the berberine Phytosome. Finally, because it requires only 100 milligrams per serving, we can combine GlucoVantage with other complementary ingredients to support your metabolic health and weight management goals. We do this in TrueGlucoSP, that's gluco as in GLUCO, capital S, capital P, which you can find at NatureCity.com. It's a great formulation. Definitely check it out. So that's it for this week's episode. I hope you found this helpful and was able to follow all that math. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to see future episodes and really help us help others by helping them get better informed about the supplements they're taking. You can also listen to us at Spotify or Apple Podcast if you prefer. Also sign up for our email list at NatureCity.com when you're there checking out TrueGlucoSP. This is Pradelli, and I will see you next week.